If I represented Tyler Robinson, what I would do, guaranteed, absolutely, I would have a member of my team go through all of YouTube. I would get a couple of deep divers, for lack of a better word, maybe Baron Coleman, certainly Candace, and others. And I would say, I want you to give me, in your opinion, who has the best take on what is happening? The best timeline, the best theories, the best videos, the best hypotheses, the best conspiracy, the best. Give me all you've got, all you've got. I would bring them to Utah, or I would have an investigator go, but I would have them all meet, and I would say, all right, tell me in your own words what you've noticed about this. Now, I'm the defense lawyer. Now, remember, I've got to put my ego away because, remember, I'll argue the law, I'll present the facts, but to know the facts, I'm never, ever going to turn away from somebody who knows this inside and out. If you're Dorothy Kilgallen from the old days, and you know what happened to her, if you're any of these, and by the way, these deep divers, I have never seen investigations like this. I have never seen the event that occurred broken down in so many theories. People who, and by the way, you do not need a law degree. You do not need to go to J school, journalism school. You don't need any kind of press credentials to be assiduous and determined and focused on going through the facts of the case. Because if I can create in the jury's mind a reasonable doubt, or at least the feeling of, wait a minute, this is weird, anything, compounded. Why were the SD chips taken out? Why was this? Why didn't they call 911 versus, I did an interview, I talked with my friend Jimmy Dore. He came up with the most incredible questions. I could have a retired Marine gunnery sergeant. How would you take apart a 30-06, a Mauser 98? How would you be able to flip, by the way, in order to disassemble it, how would you be able to flip the safety that would be obstructed by the scope? These are the questions. If one of these facts hits a juror, especially in the composite, where they say to themselves, I'm not believing any of this crap, that's a not guilty. I want to bury them, assuming it gets past the motion for JOA or judgment of acquittal, which of course it will, but still, or directed verdict, depending upon where you're from. But still, I'm going to hit them with, okay, you ready? Let me show you. And I would go through the questions where I would ask all of the investigators who did this. Detective, officer, special agent, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? Did you ever reach out to any of the citizen and civilian and private fact collectors and investigators? Did you ever? You know, we have learned from watching Antiques Roadshow to Pawn Stars to just people in life who know something, people who run antique shops, people who are gunsmiths, people who are record collectors, people who know the history of the Les Paul versus the Fender Strat, numismatists and coin collectors. These people who are in the business don't have degrees, but what we're talking about here is somebody who just watches this and says, prove me wrong, but why did you not notice this pattern atop the roof? Or why is this? Because let me explain something. And if you remember one thing that I'm saying, remember this. In the history, in the annals, in the repositories or the suppositories of criminal trial lore, history, we have never had, by virtue of social media and online personnel and online greats, we have never had anything like this where seemingly random seemingly ordinary men and women, mothers and fathers, and young people and the like, show a precision, a focused clarity, this unrelenting focus on facts and inconsistencies. I have never seen this. During the OJ case, which I thought was incredible, we never had this. We never had social media. I mean, we had somebody who might, you were kind of a slave to watching court TV or watching whatever the particular presentation was, and then the next day saying something about this, finding out something, going on a TV show or something. We didn't even have podcasts. We didn't have any internet. We had nothing. So it was pretty boring. Today, we would have our own blood splatter and analysts, our own, because you see, what it does is these folks who, by virtue of the fact that they are not maybe necessarily trained in whatever the particular thing is that we call them trained in, but they are able to say, here's what doesn't make sense to me. And one of the most important aspects of all of this is if I can create the impression, the feeling, the notion that the police were dangerously incompetent, profoundly incompetent, dangerously and inexcusably negligent, malfeasant, non-feasant, so to speak, who never lifted a finger, who never called these people up. How many times in the era of, remember John Walsh, America's Most Wanted, and if you know this person, call right now, 800 tips or whatever. We all know, we live in this world where we're constantly told, if you see something, say something. If you know something, if something seems odd, reach out, call the authorities, tell them. Okay, if that's true, and if you do feel this, don't you think it wise? I do. Don't you think it wise to act in a way that is helpful, where you're using this? And if I were to ask in cross-examination, detective, special agent, you never reached out to any of these folks, did you? You have investigators. You have retired police. You've done, I'm sure, a thorough job in the investigation of this. Do you mean to tell me that you never heard of or nobody ever brought to your attention? And I go through the list, just go through the list of all of our favorites, all of the members of our collective family, people who just amaze me as they plumb the depths of the facts of the case. I've never seen anything like this. This is we've never seen this in the history of American jurisprudence, American criminal investigation. We've never seen this. There used to be the murder she wrote type, the individual, the one person. Maybe there was. You might have heard of the old days. There was the clairvoyant or the psychic or somebody who might have assisted. Or no. This is different. This is somebody on their own, sua sponte, on their own, independent, not aligned with the police, who are going through what amounts to be a separate, independent, focused investigation at levels that are so perfect. And I want you, if I'm the defense lawyer, I'm saying, you tell me why you think this is important. Every now and then something hits. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. That is weird. Sometimes a seeming, give you an example, a seeming fact may resonate or resignate, as some people say. Do you recall the first time you saw Erica Kirk do the cry number? You know, which now is so, it's just pathetic. You know, the dabbing of the eyes. Okay. Do you know, or have you thought of the fact that, and I noticed it after a while, she never blows her nose. Now, when you say something, say, no, she never blows her nose. Most of the time when you say, can I give you a tissue? It's not for your eyes. It's connection, lacrimation, and nasal. You know this. You're a human. You've cried, or you've seen people cry, or you've seen that little fact. When I tell people that, they don't, and I've seen it, they say, yeah. Little things. When O.J. Simpson was called in his Chicago hotel room the night Nicole Brown Simpson, and later Ron Goldman, but Nicole Brown Simpson, the mother of his children, his ex-wife, when she was found slaughtered, somebody said, Mr. Simpson, your ex-wife, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, is dead. He said, oh, it's terrible. I'll be right back. I'm flying right back right now. And whoever the detective was, they said, did you find anything odd about that? He said, yes. He never asked which one. What do you mean? He never asked which ex-wife. He had two, I believe. Now that is one of those things where you think, yes. Now that's not going to lead to an acquittal or a conviction or whatever, but that's one of those, wait a minute. And if you compound and layer and stratify and provide enough of those moments of, wait a minute, that's not guilty. Because you're not going to have, unlike Perry Mason, which, by the way, never had a jury trial. There was never a jury. It was always a preliminary hearing where somebody, at 5 minutes at the top of the hour, stood up and yelled, I did it. But we don't have those moments. We don't have those. That's not real life. What real life is somebody saying, I cannot return a verdict of guilty. This case stinks from the beginning to the end. And then when police and law enforcement appear, or this particular case, appear to be incompetent or looking the other way or railroading, when you have enough of this build up, you say, that's enough. This case stinks. And juries always, 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 always say, either the evidence show this, the evidence, or I had a reasonable doubt. I am not a detective. Jurors have to be told, in fact, they're told during their jury instructions, I am not a detective. I'm not here to find out what happened. So what I would do is I would make sure in this particular case, they have, I think there's they have, Catherine, I'm looking at the names. Catherine Nestor is the lead counsel. She's a local one. And Michael Burt and Richard Novak from California. These are very, very competent lawyers who've had death penalty experience. One of the things which is critical always in a death penalty case is to lay the foundation for the appeal. We had in Florida this group called Capital Collateral, and they were great. They would always work with you. You have to file this motion, this motion, this motion. You have to file a motion to declare the death penalty unconstitutional. You have to do this. You cannot miss something on appeal. You cannot do anything to risk not preserving an issue for appellate review. Meaning, if you don't object to something, you waive it. You can't go on appeal later on, unless it's so fundamental, but you can't go on appeal later on and say, by the way, I forgot, they made a mistake. Well, did you object at the time? No. Well, you waived it. Then what happens is, remember, the client who has just been found guilty and faces a death penalty, the only thing available, they used to have this in Florida called a 3850 motion, which means ineffective assistance of counsel. This is like post-conviction relief. And they just go and they say you were the worst lawyer and you sucked. And they bring in other lawyers and they say you should have done this and that. I mean, this is desperation. That's why capital cases are the worst. They're the worst. They're horrible. Because for the most part, there is no, he's gonna get it. The only reason you're in trial is because somebody wants to kill this guy, and not because there's an issue in the case. In this case, there's an issue in the case. There's an issue. And this doesn't happen. Listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to Grandpa here. Very rarely do you ever have something where you have a case where you say, I'm really not sure if he even did it. So watch very, very carefully. Listen to what I'm saying very, very carefully. And also pay attention to what's happening right now, because this is going to be one of the greatest cases ever, kind of a whodunit true crime, but also at and by and through the assistance of some of these great cyber sleuths, whatever you want to call them, these deep divers. This is something like you can't believe. And don't forget one thing. Remember one thing. Tyler Robinson is a patsy.